Under the Bush administration, obviously, there was a fixation with security. And what we saw in terms of America's engagement with Africa was trying to find allies and partners in the war against terror. And consequently, something like $13 million per annum was spent on security networks, mainly in 5 African countries. What is the current position regarding security and defense spending?
Well, let me give a little more context to your opening point, and that is that while the focus was on security, what the Bush administration understood is that stable partners enhance our security capacity, which is why there was substantial investments in PEPFAR, a major health initiative, about $45 billion, in the Millennium Challenge initiative that has helped a number of African countries rebuild infrastructure. And what we're seeing in the Obama administration is a real sense of continuity in those sorts of initiatives. In the President Obama's maiden voyage to Africa as president in Ghana, he was very, very clear in that regard.
All right. Now, there are criticisms, though, and often comparisons between the two administrations. And, you know, the irony is that many people see the Bush administration as having done more for Africa's Human Development Index than what Obama has done with that PEPFAR and a support for healthcare and HIV programs. We saw an initial rollout of $6 billion, and the Bush administration had wanted to double that within the next 5 years. Under Obama, the figures aren't clear, but the feeling is that there's a regression in terms of supports for public health care.
Well, I think that, you know, there are obviously some things forthcoming relative to a full-blown Africa policy from the Obama administration. He's been in office now a little bit more than a year, and there are several things on his plate. But in terms of Africa, I think the thing that is indicative of what we can expect is that he visited this continent earlier in his administration than any other American president in history. The Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, was here in July, traveled extensively out throughout the continent. So I think we can expect some substantial things from this president as it relates to Africa.
Also, that visit by both the Secretary of State and the President is also about strategic issues. America has an energy security concern at the moment, and they need to find new avenues of accessing oil, at least for the next few years. By 2015, which is just 5 years from now, it's believed that 25% of America's energy and oil needs will come from Africa, and hence the strategic visits to countries like Angola and Nigeria and even Ghana, which is going on stream as an energy producer later on this year. And so it isn't all philanthropy and democracy and alliances, it's also about oil.
But that's a good thing. You know, partnerships are built on mutual interest. And where we have mutual interest and Africa has mutual interest, makes for a substantive partnership, because both people come to the table with an appetite and an agenda. So that's good all around. But the security thing, the oil thing are both important, but I think the vision is a little bit broader than that from the perspective of the United States. As you'll recall, one of the countries that Secretary Clinton visited was Cape Verde, which doesn't have oil. Now, it does have a strategic location, but I think there's a real sense that a country like Cape Verde, which is stable, which has evolved from a low-income country to a middle-income country, that is serious about democratization, is the sort of country that we want to support.
All right, let's talk about leadership issues and oil. We know how important Nigeria is to Africa's broader development, and we know that Nigeria contributes or provides 15% of America's energy needs just single-handedly. But there's been this tension as to who's actually in authority in Nigeria. The ailing president recently returned, the acting president, and that impasse is creating a lot of tension. And we know that the United States government has added its voice in terms of supporting the acting president, Goodluck Jonathan, and imploring on the Nigerians to find a speedy resolution to that crisis? What more could be done by a U.S. government, for instance?
Well, I think you rightly pointed out that the U.S. government is very much concerned with what's happening at the leadership level in Nigeria, and have expressed the same. I had an opportunity to meet with Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Johnny Carson, before I departed on this trip, and Nigeria was one of the things we briefly touched upon. There's some real concern, and I think that we'll continue. You can expect that the U.S. government will continue to engage the Nigerian government on the importance of transparency as it relates to the leadership configuration that is evolving there, and the importance of continuing to deal with leadership issues in a way that people in that country feel empowered and a part of a process that is legitimate.
Another country the U.S. government is watching very closely is Sudan. That's because in January of next year there will be a referendum concerning whether Southern Sudan stays a part of Sudan. Sudan has emerged as the third largest oil producer, and other people say that's why you're so interested.
Well, again, there's nothing wrong with mutual interest. I mean, that's what makes the world go around, literally and figuratively, in some
But in
sense.
the Sudan, is it mutual interest, or is it the fact of needing to countenance China's involvement in that?
Well,
economy?
I think it's all of the above, but I think I'd add to that as well. There's a serious and important humanitarian concern, and I'd also point out, I think that the former president of South Africa, Thabo Mbeki, has been very, very instrumental in moving this process to the point in which it is currently. And I know the U.S. government appreciates his initiatives in that regard.
Sacha, let's bring you into this conversation. America obviously has a historical relationship with many African governments, at times very controversial. The new administration trying to change that, trying to emphasize the importance of democracy. But again, you can't really silence the skeptics who say at the heart of it all is market share in oil, is also dealing with the fact that China's become Africa's biggest trading partner.
Yeah, I think unfairly America gets a bad rep because they don't have to go out of their way in order to be able to push for democracy inside of some developing countries. And remember, democracy is very new to Africa. I mean, democracy to countries like France and America is a 200-year-old institution, and in Greece, gosh, it's over 2,000 years old. So I think, they've been at the forefront of trying to help out because there is a historical connection. Say what you want. I think the Chinese approach is slightly different because it's infrastructure for goods. And I don't know, I quite like the Chinese approach, I must be honest here, in which they're leaving behind a legacy of having extracted some mineral wealth from the country.
Ambassador Stith, at the moment the American economy is experiencing what people call a cool recovery. Things are not moving as quickly enough in terms of getting people employed, getting that economy and the wheels of that economy running, and understandably the attention of the Obama administration can't really be on foreign affairs when you've got pressing domestic challenges and healthcare reforms and the like. But others are saying, yeah, this is the beginning of the demise of the superpower, the United States, and you might be engaging in all these international relations exercises just to try to assert the fact that America is still alive and kicking.
Well, I think it was Will Rogers who said, the announcements of my death have been prematurely stated. I think that it's probably a little quick to try to count the United States down and out, to be quite frank. We've got a very capable, talented, charismatic young president who understands what we need to do to prepare to lead in the 21st century. I think we've got an enormous amount of credibility because of his election. And he spent a lot of time early on, some would say too much time early on in his administration, moving around the world to clarify not only U.S. interests, but the kinds of things that make for good partnerships. So I expect great things from President Obama, and they've only just begun.